right, the next hand we're going to get into is going to involve Anthony once again over here in seat 9 and Zach in the big blind here over in seat 4. Now, I've played on Stones now twice, 155 and 1510 game, and the rap about Stones was some people play kind of trappy and there's a lot of like pot control going on, and I didn't really find that the two times I went up there. But this particular game was particularly, like I said, non-value oriented and like trippy, trappy, and just people just not putting money in, whether they're scared or just trying to play tricky, which is usually not going to be, and it's certainly not going to be the best approach to playing no limit cash games, especially at a lower level limit. And I think most people that are watching, especially new people, they might be, you guys probably are playing 2-5, maybe you're playing 1-2, 1-3. Don't be intimidated by the fact that this is a 5-10 game. These are the same mistakes that you'll see much more pronounced at the lower level, exactly the same concepts. So this is an interesting hand because it's a little bit similar to a hand that I played that I went over on the podcast from May 31st of this week when this video comes out. And I had ace 10 of diamonds. So if you're, like I said, if you're new to the site and you did a premium subscription, you can actually listen to the podcast from May 31st and take a look at the hand markers and the hand that I played, ace 10 of diamonds, where I called it quirk. Now here we have, I believe, a straddle here from a Zahn. So this particular hand was being played 5, 10, 20. And Anthony raised it up to 60, so 3x the straddle. Zach just flat called with jacks. So I mean that's, I think that I would be 3-betting with a fairly high frequency, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I will sometimes flat with jacks here, but you're gonna have to continue on if you face some overcards because your hand is, somewhat underrepresented for sure. Now here you can see that Anthony has flop top 2 pair. So he's got king 10. He also has a backdoor diamond draw here. He had raised it up to 60. It's a pretty dry board. I'm probably going to bet like 85 here, something like that on this flop, 75 to 85 into 135. He bet 95, okay. And Zach is going to call. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way that this has been played here so far. Now the turn is the queen of diamonds. So this is why it reminded me of that hand from the podcast. So you can see here that Anthony now has picked up diamonds with king 10. Now in the hand that I was talking about, the particular hand I was talking about, we'll see it, maybe I'll type it out here on the screen. I had ace 10, and then the board was ace 10, 8. With 2 spades and 1 diamond. And then the turn was the king of diamonds. So I kind of had top and middle, which is what Anthony has here, with diamonds. But the thing with queen 10, 8, or excuse me, ace 10, 8, and then the turn becoming a king, I got 2 callers on the flop. And one of the most common draws on that particular board was actually a double gut shot in the form of queen jack on ace 10, 8. So when that king came in, even though it gave me the nut flush draw, I didn't really want to get check raised off my hands. I was also in, there were 2 opponents in the hand too. But the flip side to that, though, is that the board is so draw heavy, you're going to get called by a much wider range because of all the straight draws and the flush draws. I did end up betting, but it could have put me in a kind of a strange spot because of the stack sizes and getting check raised. This is a little bit different here for Anthony. I mean, he's heads up. He's got king 10. The only thing that queen really changes is if somehow Anthony had king queen, or he peeled on the flop with ace jack or jack 9. I think it would be more like ace jack. So I am way, way more apt to bet here on the turn, as if I hadn't picked up diamonds too. I mean, like I said, with that ace 10 hand, I'm probably checking back ace 10, 8, king with a higher frequency when I pick up nut diamonds than I am if I didn't have nut diamonds. If I didn't pick up nut diamonds, I would just bet the turn and then probably fold to a raise or evaluate. So if Anthony just had like king 10 of spades here, of course you just bet the turn. I think where it's concerning for some people is getting blown off your draw, quote unquote. But because that queen brings in just gut shots, I'm absolutely going to continue to bet here. Queen 10 comes in too on the turn, and you're just not going to get check raised here. all that much. And if you do check raise, you can call and evaluate. I mean, you've got, 13 outs basically against a straight. It goes check, check, and that's in the form of 9 diamonds and then 4 full outs. So now the river comes a 9. And this is really the, part, this is really why I picked this hand. I mean, besides the fact that I think that Anthony makes a mistake by checking back. Now, this is kind of similar to the ace-9 hand at the lead of this particular video. Well, now Zach's got a straight. There's a one-liner out there, right, to a king. He's got 9-10, jack, queen, king. He also has 2 of the jacks in his hand, which means that it's more unlikely that Anthony ever has a jack. And Anthony checked back the turn. So I think you just have to bet here. Because again, it's been shown in my experience playing live and also doing thousands of hours of commentary and doing training videos that you can't expect somebody to bet 2 pair when you check to them on the river. So you're actually going to show way more of an expectation by just coming out and betting and getting called by 2 pair than checking and expecting somebody to make a thin value bet after they check back the turn. And usually you wouldn't think, the other thing about hand reading in this particular hand is you wouldn't think that it was really actually even possible that the guy would have 2 pair all that much because of the fact that he checked back the turn. Like I said, I'm assuming that Anthony checked back the turn here because he picked up diamonds, but if he didn't pick up diamonds, you would almost expect he would always bet the turn here with 2 pair. So when the 9 comes, unless the 9 somehow improves him to like king 9, but he opened from, let's say this is the hijack, but it's somewhat middle position in this particular hand. The 9 just doesn't like roll any 2 pairs. Doesn't really roll in, any types of 2 pair types of hands usually that he's going to open from that position. So it's all about like reading board texture and looking at the board and things like that. That's why this has to be a bet here from Zach, I think, with 2 jacks after it goes check, check on turn. Now, the funny thing is that Zach now checks, and again, in this particular spot, now Zach would have gotten more money out of me because just like I kind of hammered Anthony a little bit in the previous hand when he didn't bet ace queen at the end, how is king 10 not the best hand here? Like, yeah, Zach played it tricky, and maybe Anthony does know Zach better than I do, but like, given this action, you bet flop, you get called, turns a queen, it goes check, check, and now the guy checks the river, which almost always means he doesn't have a jack, even though we can see that he does, which is kind of weird. But let's just assume that he doesn't have a jack here. You basically have the only 2 pair that beat you is king, queen. So you beat queen 10, you beat queen 9, you beat 10-9. You know what I mean? I think you have to bet the river here as played with king 10 when it gets checked to you. Now, if he had come out and bet the river, yeah, maybe you fold, and that's kind of the whole definition of a value on line, where if Zach's playing against me specifically, and he knows that I bet thinly, checking pocket jacks could possibly be the best play because I might take a value own line in Anthony's spot, meaning that if Zach came out and bet, I might actually fold a 2 pair hand, but if he checks the river given this action, I'm certainly going to value bet it. So he actually makes more money by checking. But I'm not typical. That's not the typical play. You can see Anthony checks it back. You just have to bet your hand straight out. And the lower you go, the more straight up you have to play. Again, this is 5-10, but the lower stakes you go, the more you're going to have to bet your hand out from out of position when it's a near nut hand. We saw it with the queen jack. We see it here with the jacks. People they're not going to bet value. They're not betting thinly enough in position. They want to go to showdown. So you have to get the value yourself because it's been shown that they'll call your bet, but they'll check back some fairly strong hands. And that's exactly what happens here once again. King 10 checks back and Jacks wins. And I really do feel like Jacks could have gotten a call there, but he certainly didn't get a bet there out of King 10. But Anthony should have bet the turn.